Here we're going to enable SSL in Hue. And Hue is a little more complex for a couple of reasons. One, because it is written in Python rather than Java, so it requires a different kind of key than the Java services. It requires X509 certificates and private keys. Secondly, it touches a lot of processes in the Hadoop ecosystem because of the various applications that are available in Hue. We have an Impala editor, a Hive editor, an HBase editor, MapReduce job designers, an Uzi application, and so on. Because of that, it requires a special trust store in X509 PEM, which is similar to the trust stores that we've generated in Java. Also, there are some bugs that we're going to deal with in the course of this video, and I'll just talk about them when we hit them. First, let's go into the Hue service and do the intuitive thing, which is go into the Cloudera Manager configuration tab, type SSL. Let's enable SSL, and then let's enter in the path to the X509 private key and certificate for the SSL private key. So here's our X509 certificate under SSL certificate. And the SSL private key is the private key with no passphrase that our scripts generated in the previous video. Thinking that this is all that you need to do, let's go ahead and start Hue. So the Hue service has started successfully. Let's go ahead and take a look at the web user interface. So first we have SSL enabled, so this is our browser warning because our browser does not know about our root certificate authority. So I'm going to go ahead and click proceed, and we'll go ahead and log in. So the fantastic thing about Hue is that it checks its own configuration and gives you a status report right on start. So as you can see here, we have a few errors. One, we failed to connect to file system root. This is because of a bug that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And two, we can't access the Hive editor, the Impala editor, or the resource manager. And that's because we require access to our Java trust store for our certificates. We need to enter in an environment variable for the trust store so that Hive, Impala, and Uzi will work and will be recognized. And then we also need to enter in some safety valve information to get HDFS to work with its root file system using HTTPFS. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Cloudera Manager. We'll stop the Hue service, and we'll configure this guy again. First, I'm going to enter in the environment safety valve. So there's a Hue service environment safety valve, and I'm going to paste in this line from our notes file, which is the path to the Hue specific trust store that we've generated in an earlier video. So the requests underbar CA underbar bundle is an environment variable that Hue's going to pick up. It has to do with a Python library that Hue uses for SSL, and it's going to leverage that trust store. So we're going to save that. We need to add some special configurations to Hue to deal with a bug that has to do with Amazon AWS. So I'm going to paste in the first chunk of this config file in the Hue safety valve.ini. And as you can see, we have HTTPS internal hostname to named-node or HTTPFS server here. The bug, if you take a look, failed to access file system root, and this is the public host name for Amazon AWS here. And we need to put in the private host name for Amazon AWS for the name node here, rather than the public host name. This is a bug that Cloudera Manager is incorrectly placing the public name on this instead of the private name. And this breaks when you enable SSL because the certificates use the private host name. I'm going to just pop into another Cloudera Manager window so I can grab the host name of the name node from the public IP. HDFS. We'll go to the name node. And as you can see, we see that the name node is running on host 231. Copy that. So we've changed the HTTPFS URL now to refer to the private hostname. The other thing we need to do is enable the Impala application to work, and this is not exposed via Cloudera Manager, so I'm pasting an Impala section into the Hue safety valve as well. Basically what we have here is telling the Impala application running within Hue that SSL is enabled, and that the trust store that Hue is going to use to talk to Impala is the same trust store that we've generated for the request CA bundle environment variable. So now that I've made those changes, I've saved those changes, I'm going to go ahead and start Hue again. We'll close the old Hue. Now the Hue is starting, we're going to go back to the Hue web user interface and log in. If it comes back and says that the configuration check has passed, then you've successfully enabled SSL in Hue. And you can test this further by going to one of the query editors, such as the Impala query editor, and actually running a query such as a simple table creation. Or if you're running off of a previous example where we have the UFO sightings database loaded in here, you can query that. So just entered in a quick create table and refresh. So as you can see, the table that I've created is showing up in the Impala query editor. So this is a reasonable test that Hugh is now working with SSL and talking to Impala, which is enabled with SSL.